My
he
man
did.
clapped them cheeks in the parking lot and changed reality, boy.
He made that construct, my nigga. Yo.
And what's up, y'all? And welcome to another episode of the For All Nerds Show. It's your boy, DJ Benjamin, a.k.a. Hal L. Bundy, Hal Jordan, Edward Nigma, please, in Blackish Night, that purple lantern, here on the spaceship tonight. And as always, I'm joined by
Tatiana King, the Grand Duchess of Tech, also known as Flex Luthor, Fear of Zod, Joel Zantana, and Glorilla Grodd.
There we go. And returning, the Far-Setter Prospector themselves.
Hey
here.
everyone, it's Portia, aka Rubber Band Banks, aka Mr. P, make him say, aka X-Men's Rogue One, Captain Planned It, and Khadijah Frames.
Okay, love it.
And making their triumphant return to the spaceship, the one and only BJ Kicks of Comics Are Dope. Please introduce yourself to the family.
Yes. Yo. It's BJ Kicks, aka Young Grill Master, No Sandals, aka Honey, I just placed the grocery order. Can you pick it up? AKA Daddy, I can't find Barney, and I always sleep with Barney. AKA Please leave that man's wife alone.
Definitely heavy on that last one, my God.
Also, Young Grill Master, No Sandals. So
Yeah,
hopefully you're not eating, another man's plate off that grill, as they say. But yeah, we are back. Lanterns episode 2, as our AKs and everything else. BJ's green background should let you know we're here to talk about everything. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you go watch it. Make sure you hit that like, that subscribe, that hype on this video, and then we're going to get right into this. Trust Falls, the name of the episode. BJ, since you're our special guest, what did you think of it?
Man, I loved it. I love the episode. I love all of the series in general so far. I do have the one gripe. We can get into it later. But overall thoughts, I thought it was dope. I'm enjoying this I hate you buddy cop aspect of the show. The mysteries, all the new questions that this episode raised, I feel like I still don't know where this series is going. And I love that aspect of it. But it's I'm locked in. It's must-see TV.
Far-Setter Prospector.
Yeah, I agree that the mystery elements ratcheting up. I've mentioned how I love mysteries, and it's fun to go from where they leave us in episode 1 of the mystery of Hal and how he ended up there in the stands to what is Hal actually trying to solve in this timeline in 2016. And I really appreciate that this episode goes in there, and including in there being a portal dimension. So I love rationing of the fantasy, rationing of the mystery, and aliens actually being interesting in this world.
And Tatiana?
If we are continuing on this track, I gotta say, finally, some delicious effing food. I feel like they are cooking right now. I mean, this is Damon Lindelof we're talking about, but it feels like they are cooking both with story and with character and what they're doing with the DC cinematic universe. We're talking about the TV side of things, but they're still doing it on such a grand scale that is even hitting or maybe even surpassing things we've seen in a theater. And again, if what we are seeing so far, if this is to be maintained throughout the rest of this season, we're going to have something real special in our hands. We already have something very special. The fact that they have touched on a number of notes, both mentally, both nostalgically, both, your whatever level of comic book knowledge you have, as well as how we consume TV, how we consume stories and learn from it. They're doing Zod's work right now. So I just got to say that I'm really enjoying this, and they did some iconic things this episode, so I'm happy to get into it.
Oh yeah, super! A lot of comic things. I'll echo everyone else.
Iconic.
Oh, iconic. Well, iconic comic things as well.
Yep.
So I'll echo everyone else. I thought this was, and I think the Lanterns are shaping up to be one of the best things the DC universe, anything DC from the DCEU down to the DCU has ever produced. And just one of the best superhero shows and a really great, solid TV show in general, a great mystery show. Like Portia said, I felt like all the mysteries got ramped up this episode. I had so many questions. I've watched the episode a couple times now. I was all over Reddit afterwards. And like I said, there's a lot of, like Tatiana said, a lot of iconic stuff, but also a lot of comic stuff. Off top, I want to say, because one of the commenters called it out last week, and I didn't really think they were going to go there, even though I did point out like the thing like we did see in the preview about the Black Lantern symbol and all that. But one of the commenters especially said that there was some Red Lantern connections. And personally, I always thought the Red Lanterns were just a little bit goofy. They're just like rah, rah, rage. But there's a little bit more to them than that. They have some dope storylines. And this episode in particular seems to hint that the Red Lanterns might already be in the show with the characters of Antan and the rest of the dudes who abducted John in this episode. So, yeah, a lot going on. But you did have one note, BJ. So let's get right to that.
Yeah.
You did have one big complaint. So, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So this has been my complaint for the series so far, right? Like John Stewart, Marine man, super strong of mind, like being trained from like 5 to not fear gunshots and just think through things and strategize. It seems so out of character for him to just be dilly-dallying with this lady, right? Like, I don't get it.
Though? Is it though?
Well, I wanted to agree and offer a secondary point of view on that.
Okay.
Towards Ben, I means, is it though?
Yeah.
Because where I am, I'm like, exploits are exploits, and we all have them, right? I don't think that's necessarily out of character.
Okay.
But the pillow talking in episode 2,
yes,
like that's the part that I'm really just okay. I cannot wrap my brain around. This man like knows anybody can be an alien, knows all this stuff that's going on, is thinking 3 steps ahead most of the time, but is just spilling his guts to this lady. Like, unless there's some sort of outside influence, it just isn't making sense to me.
Yeah. And, in many respects, I agree with you. And I think John needs to recognize that doesn't make sense. His movements like that's wild. And I know you mentioned him being a Marine and you've been trained and you should know better than all this. But there are several factors coming into play. And that's that humanistic factor of just, one, you're being a man. That, like you mentioned, they're exploits. You're being a man, you're going to do what you're going to do. Fuck anything moving half the time. Okay, whatever. Secondly, there are many elements of John that we're starting to see through. Like this episode showed a lot about his character, or hinted towards a lot about his character and his past and his upbringing, that we see a lot of cracks. We see a lot of, I don't want to say weaknesses, but we see a lot of blind spots, if you will, right? We're seeing, to your point of him wearing, basically wearing his heart on his sleeve. Like you said, like he's just spilling his guts and they're just talking. And and for me, part of why I laughed at that note you made, because I agree with you, he has no situational awareness, which is also like, I thought you was a Marine, bro. Like, how'd you get jumped twice? But in the same episode. But that notwithstanding, the man, there's a level. It's so funny. They talk about this with Hal a lot, about him being lonely and stuff. I think John rather is also a lonely guy. I think there's a lot about him that he's very, and that kind of feeds into the military part of it. Like, he's a very lone wolf type of guy. Like, besides the background you got, like, you don't see him with anybody else, right? He doesn't, assumably, he has brothers, at least we saw in the beginning, but where are they now? He doesn't talk to anybody. He's under training with Hal, and that's all you see. You don't see any other interactions of him with anybody else. And then you happen upon this, as you say, this random woman that you pillow talking with, and he seems to have a level of unearned trust, if you will. But perhaps that's something that he's holding on to because it's something that he does not have in life. I think that's going to continue to further as the series goes. I do think that's a misstep on his end, and that's going to bite him in the ass. 100% going to bite him in the ass. But it is something that they are hinting and growing about his character. Like, yes, there is some diametrically opposed things about who he's supposed to be versus who he displays himself to be. And I think that's why your mind immediately jumped on that and said that didn't make sense. But there is a flawed aspect that they're purposefully, and the flawed dynamic that they're purposefully trying to make us understand.
Yeah. And that was even one of my questions from the episode is because John doesn't just pillow talk with Shorty, John also pillow talks with Antan, the alien. You know, he gives up a lot of information to him as well. And one of the big ones is when he says, have you ever been deceived by someone you love? And John says, yes. So who is that? Because John hasn't shown to love anyone really so far. Like he definitely doesn't love Hal so far. Someone pointed out, I don't know if we even mentioned it last week, but when he finds Hal in the future, when he finds him dead, he's crying, or he starts crying when he sees him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have that type of emotion for him now. So it's someone who betrayed him in his past, which my first thought is his dad, but he still is in contact with his dad. So either he ate that, which I can also see, and it's just something he's holding on to, which, like you said, leads into his feeling of loneliness and isolation, which might be why he reaches out to Shorty and why he's so willing to talk to alien dude. And then at the end, also, you know, tell Hal everything.
And one other thing I want to point out, like, he wants to be in this world bad. Like, when I say this world, I'm talking about that Green Lantern core, the image, the intergalacticness of it. Like, this is all he's ever, as they keep showing, this is all he's ever been leading up to, and he wants to be involved, right? What does you know, he got to get involved in that, right? Our favorite director loves to say, yeah, like anything that's going to get him deeper into that world, he is going to chase, essentially. So I also see, like, kind of that, whether it's naive or not, just that wanting to just dive right into it and just be a part of it. And I mean, you saw how he looked at the suit. You saw how he looked at the lantern. That was, and then when I talk about iconic nature, like, that was like, all my life, I wanted this.
He looked like he found his dad's letters in the closet. I was looking in the mirror.
And I get it. And also, and just my last point on that, like, that even speaks to what I was saying in the beginning, just about how in high regard, like, this writing is right now, because even if you knew nothing about Green Lantern, you knew nothing about DC, none of that, you felt the weight in that moment. You felt the weight of what was going on. And just imagine, you know, you as an outsider, you know, breaking the fourth wall, think about what the character is in that moment, seeing all that. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, for me, I think it's really interesting, like, the setup for everything with him showing that he has this weakness being a woman. Like, he's willing to just say whatever to her, but like you mentioned, he's also willing to tell Hal exactly what the aliens who tried to recruit him told him to, like, that why they were recruiting him specifically and not Hal, how they distrusted Hal, how they thought that he distrusted Hal as well. And I think it shows that especially when we see the preview for next episode, we're going to get into how his relationship with his mother and his parents allows for him to have this, like, wound where he's willing to self-abandon. He's willing to, like, have feelings about something and then kind of, like, ignore those feelings in order to, like, do whatever he feels like doing in the moment, like an impulse control. Like, you can't quite force himself to be disciplined about it. And so I think when you're talking about him, like, being a Marine and like having trained to do whatever, I think the idea of discipline, especially, this is something that I've been in different spaces, we've been talking about discipline and the idea of discipline versus punishment and how people kind of, like, get those conflated, especially early on in childhood, and how your parents reinforce discipline versus punishment. And the idea of discipline is that you, like, kind of hold yourself to a standard and you know how you want to move and you control that self-control.
Yeah.
Versus punishment is like, it's countered as, like, discipline, like, oh, you did something wrong, so now you have to be disciplined. But that's not truly discipline, that's punishment. And so when it comes to morality and holding strong to an ideal and holding strong to, like, what he wants to do, I could see that if he has not really involved himself in doing that work, then he's willing to self-abandon and then possibly punish himself for it later, or like kind of like have like inner critic about like what he's going to do later. And we haven't really seen him be strong about any particular ideal yet, besides the fact of like being part of the Lantern Corps. We haven't really seen him like stick to anything. So I wonder if like was this like not surprising, because it's like his character hasn't really been fleshed out for us to know what does he stand for outside of like this one goal that he's gone for his whole life.
Yo, what's up, fam? It is I, Tatiana King, and I want y'all to know that I need you to do me a favor. Please share this show. You're listening to us, you're watching us, but you're gatekeeping, and I don't understand why you're doing that. I really need you to share with your friends, share with your mama, share with your cousin, share with everybody, because if you're like me, you love to share the joy, and it's really important that you do that. So please tell people about For All Nerds. I love you.
I think the one thing that it's shown that he stands for is respect, right?
That's true.
Like you kind of see it in his relationship with his dad, but then even in the way he reveres Hal, like Hal's like, hey, did you tell the Guardians this thing that you just came and told me? And he's like, no, I report to you, right? Like, so he'll follow a chain of command, and he'll be forthcoming, to the nth degree. But I don't know. Interestingly, just because you brought it up, I think maybe John's got mommy issues, and that makes this stuff with this lady make more sense. Like, because that seems to be what he stands on. He will give respect, straight up, but it seems like he craves love.
100%. And that's a great observation. That might be exactly on the money too.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned talking about the love and what he craves and what he needs, I really want to mention that bird that is in like 90% of the episode. And at the very end, when Hal was just like, you pull that out of your subconscious, what does that represent? Right? Like he was kind of being funny with him, but also being straight with him. Like, what is that? And John just immediately was like, none of your business. Right. Obviously it means something, right? Birds are a metaphor for a lot of obvious things. You could say the most specific, which was flight, when he was just trying to learn how to fly. That's when it constructed. You can talk about freedom. You can talk about a lot of the typical tropes of what birds may represent. But it also could represent some lost love, right? Something, whether it's a mommy issue, whether it's an actual woman of his past, whether it could be anybody, a specific person, man, woman, or whatever. Like, I think that's going to be something that we also definitely need to like think through a little bit more about what that bird really meant throughout this episode. And the fact that he went through so much stuff, including it wasn't torture per se, but a mental bending, a mental
that
stamping.
Was torture. Like
which was torture.
He saw whatever that was like a violent act against, and then the Anon had said that it was like a Holocaust. So he's witnessed, and if you saw like Andor, whenever they did a similar like torture tactics, they had them listen to the sounds of like a Holocaust. It's like that's torture.
You're okay. So having that form of torture, and the fact that the man he was dealing with was just like, by the way, you're going to feel the effects for a little while longer. So to have just that at the very top of the mental stress on him, and the entire time the bird is still there, like what level, what depth of subconscious, scarring are we talking about?
Well, that's what like BJ said, and like you're adding to. I really think that bird also represents innocence and like his childhood. Like people have already made the joke, Snow White, and it's right there, John Snow White.
That he's Snow White, yeah,
yeah, because
he sings to the animals.
He sings to the animals. He got the little bird on his shoulder, but also in the preview we do see that we see the green light over Baby John.
Yes,
and so. People are saying, and it's also hilarious, but is it that the light, were the Guardians coming for him as a baby when Abin Sur crashed, and they're like, can't take a goddamn baby, go get Hal. Or is it I don't think that's hilarious, but I don't think that's what it is. I think the light actually came for John Sr. Asked, did he fear? And he said yes. So then it went away, and that's been his whole thing. So, but it's also John Jr. in that preview, we also see him say, I already know why you're coming to recruit me. So that means John Sr. definitely knows more about the Guardians, more about Hal, more about everything. But it also seems to be a bit of public knowledge, or more things become public knowledge once Hal comes out. Because sheriff in this episode can Google Sinestro.
Yeah. Which
know,
is wild. I'm like, damn, she's looking at Wikipedia just like me.
Yeah, so a lot of
wild.
things are becoming more public knowledge. So Hal Sr. having knowledge of the Guardians and people in general, not Hal Sr., John Sr. having knowledge of the Guardians and people in general having knowledge of the Guardians doesn't seem that far-fetched.
Well, I would hope it's not far-fetched. And I think that's one of the points of how they're constructing, to use a pun there, but how they're constructing the world, the new DCU world, the new Green Lantern world, and how it all fits in. Like they're trying to make it like we mentioned how this is like a more down to earth, even though it's extraterrestrial, it's also still down to earth at the same time. And there's like clear connections within characters. I mean, even within this episode, we talked. The sheriff said she was from Gotham fucking City.
She said that.
Oh, you don't believe
it's
her?
A story.
It's a story that she concocts. But the point is, but I want you can say what you want to say in a minute, question. But the point is just the fact that they're integrating all of this stuff, Coast City, all this other stuff. Like they're really making it clear, like this is a fully integrated world that have the characters like live and bleed. And I think that's really important with how they're going, or James Gunn era version of where the DC universe is headed. What was you going to say about that, Portia? You don't believe her.
I feel like it's a mystery, and no one is going to be straightforward in a mystery. And the way that she threw it away, because like at this, you got to think about what's happening at the time of that scene. Like they're walking through the hospital, which Hal is actually asking questions about, and she's just kind of putting him off of things. He's like, well, why is there just fresh, brand new spanking equipment in here? She's like, oh yeah, like we just don't do. So like the whole conversation is her being a little facetious the whole time. And clearly in her discussion with Hal, where she says to him, and this is later, that she's the sheriff around these parts and she knows what's going on more than like he may understand of her understanding what's going on. And so she needs to maintain this level of power, or the concept of her having a amount of power that is better than Macon's, and how Macon already kind of has people sway to his side of looking at him as like being the power of the town. So I think what we're seeing is that she's very aware of who she is portraying herself to be. And hers telling Hal, like, oh yeah, I'm from Gotham City. She says it like in a throwaway, like kind of way. She doesn't even say it like she actually means it. She just is like, yeah, I'm from Gotham City. Sure. And so, I mean, she could be from Gotham City. I don't think she is, though. And I think that the way that we see the mystery being set up, she's kind of set up to be one of the characters that we don't suspect of being behind some of the questions, because we see her in the last episode, we see the preview of her, who's the last person that's still standing in that town that John meets up with. It's her. So clearly, whatever happens for the town to be in disrepair the way that it is, by the time 2026 hits, she's still around. We don't know about anyone else. And she's talking about her son being off in college, like normal human things. So I think the mystery about like, who's the benefactor? Are they the manhunter? Who is the manhunter? All these things like that. We're set up to not think of her as the suspect when she's like as the possible suspect, when she definitely is one of the possible suspects. And I think her not quite giving a cover story that sounds real to Hal is a good indicator that she is suspicious.
Well, a lot of people definitely jumped on that she mentions Gotham and that her name is Kane because, of course, the Kanes are a famous family of Gotham.
Yep.
And she also called, when she's on the phone, she says, give a kiss to Barb for me, which a lot of people have said might be
Barbara Gordon.
There we go. But I think, like Portia said, all that is just a bunch of nonsense and a bunch of the writers poking fun at people who love all that type of stuff. And then, you'll harp on that instead of paying attention to the fact that she's lying to this man. Because she's definitely clearly lying to this man, knows way more than she's letting on. 100%. And the whole hospital stuff, like Portia was saying, just, it's ridiculous because we see one other nurse at most and no one in there in a town full of old people. Like full of people who would populate this hospital. If you've ever been in a hospital, I spent a lot of time in hospitals in the last few years, and it's full of people advancing age, and they're always full. There's
Yeah.
never a hospital empty. Bustling is words I use for hospitals at all times.
And I want to add to that. And also, BJ, I wanted your opinion on like the stuff that was just said, because you look like you got some stuff to say about this. When we talk about when I mentioned situational awareness and, the lack thereof, or clearly Hal has it, he just keeps it to himself, until he gets all the facts, which I love about him. And towards what you're saying, Portia, about the sheriff knowing much more. And there's this whole town is a fucking facade. There's something up with the town. There's something up with the people. There's something up with how it's even structured. Sheriff mentioned it in the beginning, just about, the seat of power being, unofficially being Macon, right? Like, and that just seems to be the case no matter how you slice it. The hospital, it having no place, let alone a bunch of old people, let alone old people, forget it. It's a hospital and we are humans. People go to the hospital for less. I mean, even in a town of 800, at least 20 people got to be in that hole. Like, at any given point, like, so to have, and not just a hospital of that size, even though it's not this huge New York City hospital, it's enough to like take on maybe 100 patients, and there's nobody in there but Hal. Suspicious.
I want to note too, like just for a financial kind of point of view, it takes a lot to source a hospital. Like there's so many different funds that are happening for people to make it possible for rural communities to have access to hospitals, because it's very hard to fund hospitals to hit multiple rural towns. So for them to be a rural town and have a hospital is a major thing. There should be people from out of town coming to their town because it's hard to have a hospital that remote.
And to that point, they look like they had some real nice equipment still wrapped up in the bubble wrap. And we all know where the funding has probably come from to get that. But why? And why? It's almost like how they show North Korea, where they have these constructed houses and constructed businesses, but nobody's really in that hole. Or there's like cardboard. I don't know if you ever seen these documentaries about North Korea where they dress it up to look like something going on. They got something shaking, but there's literally nobody there. There's cardboard people in the windows, right? So it's giving that a little bit. Ben, you had made a note about this too, but something I peeped, just how, and I get it, it's a small town. Everybody's in the town meeting, right? Everybody, man, woman, and child, every single person. Like, there's nobody in the ice cream shop. There's no, like, everybody. So again, maybe I don't understand, being from Brooklyn, I don't understand that, but I just thought something was off about that. And it just, there's continuously things that are not adding up. And then, of course, the sheriff being real, moving real sus-like. People are saying things that are not what the case is. And then, of course, the reveal of all this alien technology. All that said, BJ, we said a lot. I did want your opinion on some of the stuff that was said.
Yeah, the whole town is given like Wayward Pines. Like, I can't trust anyone. Nothing makes sense. I mean, I work in health insurance. There's never a hospital that does not at least have a full emergency department. Like, if nothing else, like, you at the hospital and everydy's chilling. Like, it makes
it's a tumbleweeds going down the hallway.
Quiet.
Like,
there was no beeping, no, doctor, this to this, none of that. No calls, nothing.
Right. And you noted this, but like, the sheriff is just chilling with a book, sitting at Hal's bedside. Like, there's nothing else for her to attend to.
Nothing. The sheriff of the town.
Like, so yeah, I don't trust anybody. Even the idea that the sheriff knows all of this about aliens. Like, why does the sheriff know all this about aliens? Like, to have these detectors and to be like, oh, because and that's the fun flip. It's like, oh, the feds versus the small podunk police department. And, typically the police department is like 8 steps behind.
Right.
She's always ahead.
She is the feds. The grandma is the baby. Like, yes.
Right. Like, I don't understand how she's so far ahead, especially if her relationship with her father-in-law is so adversarial. Like, he wouldn't share this with her. So where is she getting it?
How
is it adversarial?
Yeah,
is it though?
Yeah, because
really?
he kind of defers to her. Like, when she comes onto the property and like Hal starts talking, he's like, "This is how you move in," and she's like, "I didn't say anything." Okay, note that what I said was 0. And he even kind of like in that conversation, he's just kind of like, "Oh, what do you want to do?" to her, and she's just kind of like, "It is what it is." And I think it's interesting because, again, I do not think that if you were someone from a small town, someone who is from a small town, you move your way to becoming sheriff of that town and you align yourself with the lawyer's son of the man who like unofficially actually runs the town. I don't think you're gonna like make that connection or like alliance with, and then also be saying that you're like, oh, I'm actively trying to subvert his power
Yeah.
to like an outsider. Like
Mm.
that's what's most fishy to me about her. Cause like every time she talks to Al, she's like, let me talk to him. And it's kind of like, I think it's, you got to think about how manipulation, how you
Mm.
know someone else is going to move before they move. And so you kind of like feed in them to be like, do exactly what you think they should do. So I think that's what Hal did first episode to, um, John. Whenever John is like, whenever Hal asks him like, "What would you do?" and he's like, "Oh, I would go tell her," and he's like, "Okay, go do it." Like, I think he's like, it's not even like he's basically saying to him, "Do what moves you," because he knows that it's going to. He's been waiting for the guy to slip up, the alien to slip up, so he
Mm-hmm.
can do something, but it's only going to take some outside reaction for the alien to slip up. So he's like, "This is going to work in my favor." I get John out of my hair for a minute. He gets to run him down. He feels responsible for that. And I get to sit back and like catch him in the end. Like, so that works out for me if like this goes awry. And then so too to the sheriff, and she was on the field when John is like, did I mess up? She's like, I suspect you did. She was already ahead. And it was already, again, it worked in her favor to just be like, well, I'm the wise sheriff who's from the small town kind of vibe to John and folksy kind of like. So I think there's a lot of manipulation here. I think it's more than just Macon's wife. I think there's multiple people playing cards that are all manipulations of like what they know about Hal, what they know about John, what they know about Green
Mm.
Lanterns.
Mm. Yeah. On that note, I do want to say a couple things about the town, and then because you mentioned Macon's wife, and then I got some questions. But like the other thing that makes the town so suspicious is the fact that no one reacts at all to Hal. Like they know everyone in the world when he goes to the taco stand, they are all taking pictures. They are hyped to see this
Oh.
man. They are everything. Since Hal has stepped into this town, there is not a notice. It's just been like, oh yeah,
Right.
whatever, dude. Sit down next to
They
me
seem more annoyed that he be there. Like
because
they carry the
he's
same William Macon kind of plot line with them. They like, oh, why the fuck are you still here, bro?
yeah, and like Portia said, it seems that everyone and like William said, first episode, I knew you were coming. I did all the research. I've laid out everything. So he's already talked to sheriff. He's already talked to his wife. He's already talked to son-in-law. Everyone. Also, it's like who this seems like for this is an old 80s movie, but this seems like the evil cocoon going on in this town where something alien has come to this town and granted you've seen cocoon, so you know what I'm talking about. It's granted all these people, immunity from death or long-lived life, whatever, where they don't need to go to the hospital. You don't have to do any of that. Just go along with whatever else we have going on. So is that the question? Is that the manhunter here? And that who's the manhunter is a big question, but there was something the sheriff said, and then I'll get to Macon's wife. She said, Waylon, the alien who got through, she wasn't like, he got through because the detectors didn't work.
No, the detectors detect. Oh, why the last alien got through?
Yes. That's what she says. She's
Yeah,
like,
it
yeah.
doesn't work. It didn't work on him or something like that.
Yeah, she's like, I didn't suspect him to be an alien. But that's some more bullshit to me. That's when it's like, yeah, no, you knew he was an alien, all that. That feels like some nonsense. Now, on to Macon's wife and to manipulation. And this is something I peeped and I was on Reddit and saw when they first have their encounter. She pulls out a pack of cigarettes that's yellow, right? Now, in the diner, in the second episode, when she's sitting down and when John is sitting across from her, I was just rewatching in the background as we're watching this, and I really peeped it, and it's wild. When she's sitting there, you see the mustard next to her. When you cut back to John, you see the ketchups in front of him. But when you cut back to the shot of both of them in the shot, mustard is apparent. Yellow is apparent. So yellow is always associated with this woman. For people who don't know the lore, the yellow color is traditionally the color that the Green Lantern rings don't work on. And eventually it's what Sinestro and his core of lanterns use. Well, Sinestro pretty much for his history is used the yellow ring, but eventually he forms a whole core of lanterns, the Sinestro core, and they all use a yellow ring. So the fact that we consistently see yellow with this woman, is something going on again with her. Now, as to who is the Manhunter, that's also the big question of the episode and seems to be the series. The aliens who kidnapped John, they say the Manhunters came through our town, our sector, or they came through space, basically. Started wrecking shit, dispensing their form of justice. Then just like that, they disappeared with we don't know why. And one was left behind. He started this genocide. They can hide as anyone. They started the genocide, and then a lantern came through and picked up the Manhunter and said they would deal with it.
Right.
Who is that lantern? It's just that in this episode that it's Abin Sur.
Abin Sur. That's what I thought.
I think, all right, two quick things. And BJ and everyone, y'all know the history. BJ definitely knows his history. The Manhunters were in the comics, at least, were created by the Guardians as a precursor to the Lanterns. They went out, they dispensed justice, like you said, but then they wild out, and the Guardians were like, okay, we can't deal with that anymore. Like we said, they disappeared just as suddenly as they came. And then they created the Lanterns. But then, of course, some Manhunters survived and rebelled against the Guardians. To this day, they're a threat to, the Guardians and to the Lanterns universe-wide.
Right.
So the guess is that Abin Sur, but of course, red herrings being thrown off. I'm thinking it's Sinestro. I think 10 years ago, Sinestro came through, got this Manhunter, found out about the origins of the Manhunters, and was like, what fuck Guardians? And went and rebelled against the Guardians, which led to him being in prison and Hal being disillusioned with the Guardians and with Sinestro and his whole thing.
That would make the most sense. That would make the most narrative sense, especially for the fact that at the very end of the episode, we actually see Sinestro and have a conversation directly about Manhunters.
But how does the Manhunter get to Earth in that situation and into this town?
Can Manhunters have been here the whole time?
Maybe.
Yeah, especially if they're shapeshifting, like maybe they just didn't catch all of them.
Especially if, if Earth is the backwater end of the forest reaches of nobody giving a crap about what the fuck is going on there, kind of like place in the galaxy.
Anything why would hide here?
A Manhunter? This would be a great place for a Manhunter to hide, because who's coming over here?
That's a fact.
But then why does Hal know that something's going to happen in this town? Other than fact, and then if Abin Sur crashed here, that's the thing. Like, why is Abin Sur crashing here? That has to tie in.
But maybe he crashed there because he was trying to find Manhunters. He came out of the way, figured out there might be Manhunter presence here, and then he died. And he was like, "Well, someone has to take on the mantle to continue what I was trying to start here, finding where this Manhunter is, hunting down this Manhunter, basically."
To that, and also to your question, Ben, of how knew, Hal always keep talking about gut feeling, and they this was like a big theme in this episode about instinct too. Is it more than just gut feelings and instinct? Is there something? And this is part of the Lantern history that I don't know if this was even touched upon in any book, in any comic, but is there something that also gets passed down to you once you get the ring, besides just getting access to the powers and doing constructs? Do you get? Maybe you just have to be taught, but is someone is there any type of knowledge or instinctual, mental stamping that gets carried down to you as well as the next Lantern? Do you get anything from the previous Lantern?
Yeah, well, generally speaking, right, you get your ring after a previous Lantern dies. But
right.
Once you get in, you go to O and you sort of get your kind of knowledge down. You get trained.
You just get trained. Okay.
Yeah.
So you get training on the basic history of stuff. But so much of Hal Jordan's character boils down to instinct, right?
So it really is just pure instinct. And just to answer your question, Mel, of how did he knew, he keeps saying it's in my gut, it's in my gut. And I was just like, is it just that, or is it because there's something else that he has been learned?
I like this train of thought though, because kind of epigenetics a little bit, but more it's encoded in the ring. Could the ring be holding a code? like, is the ring wiped clean when the predecessor dies, or is there can they leave something, a message or something tied to the ring?
Well, we know
for
they
the
can leave
next person to pick
messages.
up?
The holograms, the hollow Hal, as we saw the last episode. So we know that for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, like, if like Hal ran up on dying Albin Sur, then like maybe Albin Sur said something to him, like to his face. I don't know.
Yeah, and in other adaptations, like the ring can basically teach a lantern how to be a lantern. And so like it's like the ring keeps the knowledge of the wearer. So.
And that's what I was trying to like understand and allude to. Like, is there something, is there any lore that would go on that track? So even though he says it's instinct, is because it's something imprinted in him because of the ring and because of his association with the lanterns and all this other stuff.
Speaking of Hal and like subconscious things, in his sleep, the reason why the sheriff knows to like look up Sinestro is because he keeps saying Sinestro in his sleep while in the hospital. So it's possible too that like he is holding on to stuff in his subconscious, and he is like, it's just not coming out like it is the instinctual thought that he's talking about. But also to talk about, we talked about John and his proclivity for spilling his guts to women, but what was Hal doing with the sheriff if not the same thing? Because he's over here asking this lady, he's like, is it a happy marriage? Like, are you...
Well, he's just nosy. That's a nosy motherfucker.
No, that's not nosy.
Flirty.
My man, we just saw the verses. My man was pulling to Joe, doing all the things your man won't do. Like, my man was ready, bro.
Well, not to discount Hal. Hal is clearly extremely smart too, right? Like, he's a detective. Everyone, a lot of people online like in this series, The True Detective. Hal is like, Hal asks these questions. He plays a drunken master role, but really he knows, generally speaking, he knows what's happening. He knows what's up. Yes, to me, it is a partly him just being nosy, because some things are really like throwaway information. Like, you don't have a happy marriage, but also some of it is, it's real detective work where he's trying to get to the bottom of things. A lot of times, like when you see how he even processes it, when he goes back to the football field and he's sitting there and he's retracing the steps and literally reworking it. And the fact that he dragged 4 fucking bodies just to test his hypotheses of the metal detectors. Like, he's a method actor when it comes, how as a detective, he's a method detective, right? He's going to be in the moment, in the scene. He's going to play the role, but to get the information he needs.
Yeah, I think Hal's superpower is not willpower. It's white privilege. And I think that is just examples of it.
Ding, ding, ding,
right?
Ding, ding.
Like, he's just, you know what? This lady's here in the room with me. Let me shoot my shot. Hey, you stayed at my bedside. Why were you here? Is your marriage happy? Like, he's just, it's a heat check. That's all it is.
My man answered to Honey when she said Honey.
Now he's outwardly fucking with her now. Like that's, I'm like, he plays that role so well. Like, he knows what he's doing. Like, it's partially serious, partially him being a clown, but also at the end of the day, it justifies his means, right? Like the results justify his means, because he ends up getting what he needs to get. BJ, you just said something really important that I wanted to make sure that we touched upon when you talked about white privilege. And I made it a reason to talk about race in the last episode and I was like, how are they going to be using this? And how they listen. What did y'all think about the POC conversation between Zoe Macon and John?
It almost redeemed the fact that John is pillow talking in this bar. Like, because she's just spitting the real. And there's so many layers to it. Like, she's talking about how, because basically John's like, okay, well, you always stepping out on your husband? Like, what's going on? And she's like, well, he's boring, but I picked him because he's safe, right? Like, rich white men can do whatever they want in society. And so, like, that safety was attractive to her. But then she also makes a point to say that she felt honored because he could have chosen anyone, but he chose her. And I think that's just kind of, that sucks. It's emblematic of just, how white privilege, or maybe, or white supremacy, which feels charged. So I'll say, like, whiteness as default, right? What makes you feel like maybe you are not worth being chosen, to be honored that he could have chosen anyone but chose you. you know?
It felt very respectability politics too. Like, what you mean you felt honored? Like,
But
it was wild.
I also I think there's another side to that. I don't think that she felt honored. I think it's more like I took the white man from his blonde dream. Like, that's the thing. What he wants, what he should have is the blonde woman. And I know none of that. I'm here. So, and also she says, because he's like, well, a lot of men can want you. And she's like, yeah, of course. But are they him? Are they rich white men who can protect me? Which also leads to that theory that Manhunter or something, villainous. Because one, in this town of, Nebraska whiteness, this woman is ignored. Nobody bothers her. No, nothing. She just seems to just be there. People don't even pay her no mind. Just like, even a worse version of how they do Hal. And then, like she says, I needed protection. I needed safety. I needed these things. This man could provide it. This manhunter comes to town, tells him all about aliens, tells him how aliens can come at any time. I'll give you all the technology you need to protect everything. I don't know. She's, mysterious benefactor. It's maybe her. And like,
is it giving Manhunter?
Yeah, we've also pointed out that, that's not her grandchild. Like she is a brown woman and that is not her grandchild. Yeah, also, the fact that boy can't play ball and somehow managed to be all-state is, there's...
These things are not making sense.
Yeah, is he lying about, is the sheriff lying about all-state,
No, John, the magical Negro, transformed the trajectory of his life and made him all-state just by saying,
"Don't think right?
Not the legend of Slapper Vance.
He did pull a magical Negro. Oh my God, he did that very. He did the Legend of Bagger Vance.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Our man did. Clapped them cheeks in the parking lot and changed reality, boy.
he made that construct, my nigga. Yo. Wait.
Available now at ForAllNerds.com. The Gucci Mandalorian, the Variants, the Duncan Egg, the Lionel Richie. New designs coming soon.
But before we moved on from the race thing, I did. I wanted to also just say, like, yes, everything you said, BJ, just about how she, positioned her relationship with William Macon, right, and how, and why she is, whether she chose him, he chose her, and that dynamic there, and the fact that he just let shit happen apparently because John asked, outwardly asked, like, do y'all have some type of arrangement? And she just like, I just do whatever the fuck I want, right? And it just seems like Macon is like, whatever. Not to say that like that is actually way more common than people realize, but also it's just like, well, damn, he's really as a husband, you really just gonna let that shit slide like that? Tends to happen in relationships that have been together for a very long time. Because, you grow and you evolve. I get it. But also it's a little suspicious. And so I just wanted to mention that. And just on the other side of that racial conversation, John mentioning that, again, one thing that was so funny about this episode was everything was funny. Everything was comedy.
Oh, man.
Him saying that the white man made him go fetch his stuff. And, I was waiting for Aaron Pierre to start tap dancing in the corner because it was just perfect how he just delivered the line, which also just speaks to Aaron Pierre's comedic timing. But it was very breaking the wall kind of conversation that they had, because it was like, damn, y'all not talking about the show anymore. Y'all talking about real life too. So I really appreciated that they went there, and hopefully will continue to push that line.
And on that note, because there was a couple comments from last week that I want to address, because one of them said something to the effect of how they think that this show needs to stay away from race talk, I think was their word.
Not going to happen.
And how that derailed Watchmen of all things. And
literally what? Okay, let me shut up.
Yeah, really quickly, one, that's what Watchmen was all about, like you said, and two, as I've said many times on this show, there is no such thing as any art that is devoid of any politics or any racial connotations, etc. if it doesn't discuss it directly, that's the privilege of not having to discuss it directly. And 9 times out of 9, pretty much, there is some mention of politics in every single form of art you've ever seen. It's just that normally you agree with it. And so it's something you don't notice. But when people start making comments like white men are privileged and rich white men are the most privileged of them all, and, et cetera, and as this show basically is discussing race in every episode, it suddenly becomes a problem for people. And that's just pretty much all I have to say about that. And it's just like ignorance of that. And to say that Green Lantern, like we discussed last week, hasn't always discussed these topics. It's just ignorance of the source material, which people love to, run and talk about all the time. So I really don't have time for it. And I was really glad that this episode continued to lean into it and continue to discuss it, because it's just reality. Like the commenter said something, we don't live in the 1960s anymore. And I'm like, no, we live in 2026, and it's, ridiculously racist out here. And I saw a study talk about how Black people, we actually eat so much racism that we don't even realize how much, racism is going on in the world. So fuck all that, man. And I really it's just really ridiculous to me at this point. Yeah, it's like, I was going to make a separate video about this, but I'm just kind of tired of making that same video, where it's like, I make these videos over and over again where I say, hey, it's always been in all your fucking comics and it will always be there.
Yeah, we could just throw out the casual reminder that Green Lantern was like a D-list character at best until Denny O'Neil decided to write a bunch of politics into the Green Lantern stories featuring Green Arrow, right? And if you have an issue with all of that, you could just take it up with the 3 rich white men who wrote this series.
That part. So yeah, I was, quite happy about that. And then on some other stuff, and this will get into my next thing, like you said, the comedy in this episode was amazing, because one of them that I just love is right after Hal gets shot when he's just trying to walk onto the farm, like, a white man will do, an arrogant white man at that. It cuts to the aliens with John, and he's like, sorry for the violence. And that was just like,
it was, they from Jump Street, this episode was sheer comedy. The the interaction with Hal and John about learning to fly, that I was crying, because it's like, Hal is the worst teacher, whether because he's trying to teach something more deep or he's just being an asshole. Just the way he went about it, like, okay, here's the ring, fly. And there's no explanation, there's no direction, there's no nothing. Just like how he's been, quote, training John this entire time, right? Very much circular referencing. Like when someone asks for a definition of the word and you use the word to define it. Like he says, he said fly, like flight. Like doing a version of the word is not going to help you understand it any better, right? And again, just giving no real, at least visible support, and just making sure like, oh, you just got to figure this shit out. It's instinctual, right? Again, there's lots of depth to that scene, but also just on the pure comedy level, one of the best things I've seen in a while.
I mean, on comedic, but also on the note of like, John being the like Black man going to go get the white man's things from another state. Yeah. Just the way, because the episode starts with like Hal feeling emboldened to just run up into his motel room, throw some water on him, and be like, "Get the fuck up." And John is like, "I mean, okay, I guess I gotta." He like, wait, what else could he gonna do? And then it's like he just accepts it, and then he takes his butt like outside. They have a conversation about the flight and all that kind of stuff. And then when he gets to Hal's house, because this is like, well, we're hitting 2 prongs here, because that was the thing I thought was interesting. A carryover from last week's conversation was like, how are they getting paid? And so whenever, like, because the thing that what Hal actually does is he's waking up John in time to make the flight that he already booked for John to take, just in case the whole flight thing don't work out. And also he knows it's probably not going to work out because his battery's on 5% on the ring anyway. So like that was all going to toss up anyway. So he hands the man a ticket for him to get to Coast City, and then when he gets to his house, it's a mansion.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, so how much do we get paid? And he's like, oh, not very much, like not enough. And so we get the explanation that like he saved a rich white boy, and the rich white boy's dad was like, okay, I'll give you a house. And so that's the house. And he's been living in like his bedroom. That's the only furnished place in the entire mansion. And even then, it's like barely got anything. He's lived there for 8 years. So talk about Hal's white privilege. Like that is a lot. And so for me, he doesn't say who Earl is, but he asks John to feed Earl. We find out Earl is like a carnivorous alien plant. And like, so like the privilege of like him having an alien plant just like hanging out in this greenhouse is crazy. And then first thing that happens to, because I'm like, there's no way a black man is going to a rich white man's house, breaking in with a key and coming back out of it easily. And the first thing that happens to him, he gets kidnapped coming out of this white man's house. So just like this whole tie-in of like race and like all the factors of like money and all those things like and privilege are all wrapped up in it. And it's comedic, but it's also like Henry Gates,
very deep too.
He had to jump in. He was trying to get to his own house, and he had his neighbor call the cops on him. Like he has the permission, speaking to the man on his phone directly. And even though it's not like the cops or something, it's still someone who jumps him just because he went into a white man's house.
Yes.
Another thing that I want to note is talk about privilege is how, because, and it's two things, is we see a lot of pictures, right? And that speaks to Hal's loneliness and his isolation, because the pictures are all with people he doesn't know, really. You know, they're all the
presidents.
And two things about that. One, we see a picture of him with both Bush and Obama. So Hal is, can be above politics because he's white and Green Lantern. So he doesn't give a shit. I can be with whoever I want, ha ha ha. And then the other thing is you see a picture of him with the Harry Potter cast. So that man was especially like, yo, this
he was a
fucking alien doesn't know who Harry Potter is.
He's the Harry Potter stan. And
he was like Hogwarts?
He was tight. He was insulted. He was like, you don't know what school you're in? Like this man was tight. So but Hal is definitely isolated. He's a loner, all that, and we see it in his house with the pictures, all that. So I thought that was excellent work.
We see it in the house itself. The house is just huge. It's expansive. It's gorgeous. You can do a lot with it, but it's
like
clean. But it's that too. But it's empty. There is nothing inside. He's had it for 8 years, he says he's lived there for 8 years. Just speaks of something that's been there for a long time, but has no substance to it. And it's expressive of him as well. So
very good point. And then also while we're in the house, we did mention the lantern earlier, but that shit looked fire. I gotta say, like it was, just weathered. The props incredible. And I didn't know this reference, but the voice opening for the lock is Mogo Doesn't Socialize. And Mogo Doesn't Socialize is a story by Alan Moore, the great Alan Moore. Yeah, it's actually a story about Mogo. I went and read it real quick. It's a quick 5-page story. Mogo is a planet-sized Green Lantern. It is a planet that is a Green Lantern. And Mogo Doesn't Socialize tells the story of how this alien hunter, fighter, killer comes looking for Mogo, not knowing it's a planet, spends months on the planet before realizing that Mogo is the planet, and then flies off into space fearing. And the reason why Mogo doesn't socialize is because he's a planet, or it's a planet, they're a planet, and its gravity wells would destroy anything that comes near. So Mogo doesn't socialize.
That acid was pure back in the day. My God, like the planet is the baby. Jesus.
The best part of this, not stepped on.
Very Guardians of the Galaxy too, by the way, Eagle and all that other stuff. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, the best part of the story for me was when it's actually lanterns. They're talking amongst themselves, and one older lantern is telling a new lantern about the story, and they're like, "Well, and then one day I'll tell you about the real big lanterns." So Mogo ain't even the biggest,
Is Mogo in this universe?
Mogo doesn't socialize. I mean, I think I think Hal knows the story of Mogo, so that's why he used that first code. So
No,
yeah,
I mean, like, is Mogo just floating in space right now?
yes,
Like, wow.
yes,
Okay.
it's amazing. And Mogo talks, all that. I love Mogo. Like Mogo is one of my. There are so many dope, weird ass Green Lanterns, but Mogo has always been one of my favorite ones.
I think my favorite is the squirrel. Is it
Yeah,
Chip. Yeah,
Chip is amazing.
Don't say it like it's like Cal L with the apostrophe. Chip.
No,
it
has
is.
the
It
apostrophe.
is. Yeah, it's
Jesus
CH apostrophe P. Chip.
Oh my God.
Yeah, amazing. Chip. I've always loved that dude. Like, I mean, how can you not? Like, all right, before we wrap up, the one other thing, and this gets back to the whole big mystery thing, is another commenter, I'm not know their names, but on the live they made this point, and I wasn't sure that they were going to go, like I said, about the Black Lanterns and all that, but it seems that the Red Lanterns are coming in, or we're seeing the early version of them with those aliens who kidnapped John. Because the story they tell about how they were genocided, everything is very similar to the origin story of Atrocious, the lead Red Lantern. So there is a possibility of that right there, so I don't know. And there was another line in that conversation that was very important to me that I wanted to point out, is when John says, one, he talks about how he has been betrayed by someone he loves, which I was thinking it was the dad, but I think it might be the mom now, which would lead to his mother issues and all that, and why we haven't seen him talk to the mom in the current timeline or in the, present. But the other part of it is he says you don't recruit someone, by accident. You got to do it subtly. So he's been recruited before. I mean, we know he's been recruited for the Marines, all that. But I feel like that was more about talking about the Lantern Corps and all that, and how he got recruited to be at least a trainee.
You mentioned the word subtlety. That just reminded me of like maybe more individual points that I wanted to make sure I mentioned. The subtlety in use, as I mentioned, like they're to me, they're putting the stories of these DC characters on a much more grander scale than I've remembered it being up until now. It's giving it much more respect. It's making it have much more power and much more influence. And it's just making me feel, one, that when we are looking at how this new DC universe, since live action universe is being constructed, and to my great, happiness, it feels like it's not centered on Batman or Superman. In fact, if they play their cards right, Lantern could potentially be the centerpiece, particularly because of how much energy they put into like the mythos of it and what we're seeing. I mentioned that I felt like a good weight, but a heavy weight when we saw the suits and when we saw the Lantern and, the little pocket dimension and all this other stuff. Like, it felt like it mattered. And it's feeling that way even in like how the characters approach it. Like in the last episode, how was when Jordan, I keep saying Jordan, but when John was just like, why you don't wear the suit? And how it's like, there's like a time and a place. And then at the end of this episode, he actually dons the suit when he's going to go see Sinestro. Like, when you talk about the importance of things. So also not spamming us with nostalgia, not spamming us with iconography, right? That is one of the things that gives more weight to when a character is in the full regalia and is, whether it's going to battle or it's going to have a conversation, like, it really matters. And I think that, again, if they just continue on this path, we're going to see something special occur. Where we put more respect on the DC name. Because I got to say, like, I mean, I know, BJ, you're the big DC guy here, but like, when we're talking about from a cinematic perspective, that respect has been dwindling exponentially, right? With the exception of the millions of Batmans that, have come down the pipeline. Like, it's not the same level of when you saw with the MCU. Now that fulcrum is, that this now new fulcrum point is actually changing the dynamic a lot. So I wanted to just mention that, like, that it really matters how they play around with, again, we calling them props, but like, these are like huge pieces of this history that is going to like weigh whether or not people really care about the show and these characters and where the story is going. There's a lot of mention of Bison, and me and Ben are Howard grads, HU. Okay. I get triggered when I see the word bison, right? And I saw it a couple of times, with Earl eating beef and bison. I was just like, okay, is that it's just that a connection to Nebraska, because apparently the Nebraska team, their mascot is a bison. This is minor, but I was triggered by it. The plural of bison is bison. There's no S on the end. So in the field when Hal was out there, there was a sign that said Bison's win or Bison's charge or whatever like that. I'm like, there's no fucking S. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to make that point.
Maybe a black person made the sign.
Did you see that last week?
No, it was this week.
No, Howard put out a post last week, like welcoming the bison back. And
oh, really?
They got on the social media guy because it was like, it's not bisons.
He put bisons with an S.
He put bisons.
Jesus.
Wow.
Jesus. That's one of the many of the worst things you can do to a Howard alum.
I mean,
so
even
don't do
for
that.
a black person like me who puts S on everything, I know that one.
He's like, I would never do that.
Listen, I'm going to go to Kroger's, but I'm not going to say bisons.
Yeah.
Right.
Crazy.
If this show wasn't called Lanterns, I would be calling it that. Trust me.
Akin to what we try to do on our shows is also like point out the little details that will have greater impact. When Hal and Homegirl was in front of Macon Ranch, and I noticed a sign in front of the ranch, and that might have been the first time, but it said "Study the Past."
That's the name of the ranch. The name of the ranch is Study the Past.
Yep.
Yeah. Now we've both figuratively and literally, we've seen and heard many of the characters talk about the past. The way the whole show right now is constructed is bouncing back and forth between the past. We're still in the past, apparently, right now as we continue on. And the fact that you really need to study the details, study the people, study the moves that they make, study just everything. Macon keeps talking about the people who lived there back in the day, the original tribes, the Sioux and all the people, and how he's trying to stop that from happening again. Why? Not to say that you can't be a history buff, but like, why is he so interested in why does he keep using that as his reference about not being colonized? Is he have some connection to that? Yes, he's a white man, but is there some type of other connection there that we don't know of?
Because like I say, whoever is this manhunter, whether it's the sheriff or whether it's his wife, has been feeding them this information that you could get colonized at any point. There are aliens out there who will run through you. Here, I got the guns for you, though.
I think the more important note there from Study the Past, being the name of the ranch, being that it gives me kind of like a Roswell's kind of situation of like the crash landing of Albin Sur likely happened on the location of that ranch. Study the past means like whatever they're hiding on that land, because they're not just like being protective of like each other, or they're not being a militia for the town. They're protecting people coming into that property. So there are things that happened in the past, literally on that land, that they do not want people to getting to know. So Hal getting shot by the sniper, despite being told not to come on the property, that was a lesson, not just in power and stakeholding and, power lying where you believe it's a lie. It was a lesson in they do not want anyone who has any information about anything related to aliens to be on that land and make any suspicious clues and theories about what happened in that place before. And I wonder if that is the site of Albin Sur's crash landing. What was Hal doing in that airspace at that time? Where did he actually meet Albin Sur? So there's just a lot of mystery. There's something, but it's something specifically about that ranch, something specifically about 1986 and whenever Hal got the ring, Albin Sur, Manhunters. There's just a lot of questions around that space that I think the name of the ranch is a clue to, that it's not just because we keep getting told the history of the land as known by Earthlings. Correct. But that is for a reason. That is because that's what Macon wants you to keep hearing from him. He's not telling you about the thing he doesn't want you to hear from him. So I think that's a really good kind of like misdirection kind of thing. And while we're on things we want to point out, I did want to point out that the same is kind of like the flip of John letting the bird going at the same time as Hal puts on the suit that he says he doesn't want to wear. Their willingness to do things that are against what they actually want to do, against self-abandonment, is really interesting. And they both have it in interesting ways. And that might be vital to like the idea of like willpower and being a Green Lantern. Like, want to dig into that at some point. Um, and also the fact that he meets up with Sinestro. And when he says to Sinestro, what do you know about Manhunters? Sinestro's like, okay, like we can talk about Manhunters, but it's not even your greatest threat right now. And the first thing that comes out of his mouth after he says what your greatest threat is, John, tell me about John. And so it's like a clear parallel of like, yes, Hal was the one who was Sinestro's downfall. So like protege to protege, like that can be your biggest threat kind of situation. I don't know. Again, don't know if this is a misdirection from us, from the writers, for us to like consider that this is the lane that Hal might go on, or that Sinestro might point him to, or that's just kind of like where we're leaving a greater conversation where we talk about a greater threat, and John might be the key to like getting into that. So that's interesting to me. I also think it's like just like the idea that the Manhunters being part of like, Ben, when you were bringing that up, like the theories around Manhunters and how it is that Sinestro went on his whole trajectory to go against the Guardians. I don't know. It's interesting that what has been revealed prior to us being privy to what's going on in this universe, like off screen, versus what we're going to get on screen. Like, why wouldn't Sinestro and John have already, and Hal already have had some part of this conversation before? Is interesting to me. And then my final thing was that in the after show, they mentioned that where Hal is like in middle age is that he's seeing that there's more road behind him than ahead of him when it comes to life and like the career and journey and everything like that. So when it comes to love, life, and everything else, like his home is like a symbol for home not really being a home. And his life really isn't a life. And so when we see him in Sinestro, that's why I've questions about like what was the tenor of their relationship, because why are we just now having these deeper conversations?
House is not a home. That's a fact.
Right. Chair is still a chair though. But so with that, I picked up on the same thing you did with, Sinestro saying, John's your greatest threat. And of course, like Sinestro becomes like a Yellow Lantern Corps leader, right? And if we're going on the emotional spectrum, like yellow represents fear. And so I'm like, in that moment, maybe Sinestro's just messing with Hal, trying to plant that fear, like this dude is here to replace you. Tucker Carlson and all that. But then, it's also just like, okay, well, how is John perceived right now? Like, because their relationship is contentious in the first episode. Obviously, by the end of Hal's life, there's great reverence there because he's crying when he sees his dead body, or what he believes is his dead body.
Right.
But then even along the lines of Yellow, right? Like you brought up, Ben, just maybe the Red Lanterns are here. But when I saw them hit him with the gun to show them their memories, that was Yellow. And I'm like, okay.
I watch Yellow.
I'm like, is there a parallax at work here? Like what's going on for real? So I'm just curious to see where they go with it.
All right. Well, a couple last things as well, because you were talking about loss and love and life. Another character that I haven't looked to see if they were cast or even in this series, but that plays a big part with Hal, is Carol Ferris. And Carol is like the Mary Jane to Hal's, Peter Parker. And the fact that she's not been seen, we don't see any type of love life for Hal, but like Portia said, he's already had a lot of life, so maybe she was already there. He's already lost her. Now, back to the bigger picture, one thing that James Gunn said a while back that didn't really make sense to me then was how important Lanterns was to the bigger picture of the DCU. And one of the biggest or most well-known events that ever come out of Green Lantern was Blackest Night, where the Black Lanterns rise up and a bunch of zombie-fied versions of a lot of DC characters become Black Lanterns. And we've already seen hints that the Black Lanterns are involved. We've seen hints that the Red Lanterns are involved in this. the Sinestro Corps. So we're definitely, and I knew that, and I said that before, that when I saw the show was named Lanterns, that we were going to get into all the different various colors of the Lantern Corps and all that it wasn't just going to be about Green Lanterns. That was my guess from early. So that seems to be the case. And I feel like that might be the big mega event. I don't know if they would build to that like Blackest Night. I don't know. I'm one of those people who find Blackest Night to be a bit corny. Zombies are always a bit corny to me. It started off really dope, though, I can't lie. So, it did. It just kind of fell apart at the end with White Lanterns. It just.
Oh God!
Whenever you introduce a White Lantern as the greatest lantern, it's just
it sounded like
the
supremacy.
There is
and it was a white dude who was the White Lantern. It was just like Blackest Night started off so dope, and then it just got to that, and it was like
sounding like robes and hoods.
Yeah, it just did not feel good. Just smells like racism in here. Yeah. So
So what's going
else?
Yeah, just about like what to look for going forward. I saw in the preview, I think the next episode, I mean, they've been moving so far ahead in the previews and we're not exactly there, but it looks like he might get to the Guardians in the next episode. At least John will, and have that conversation. They ask you, saying most people at this point ask, why me? Why did I get chosen? John says he knows why. And, given something that backstory, are we going to see like the literal scenes of what happened when he was a child and when the lanterns or Abin Sur's ring came to him? Like, what are we going to see?
I think so. I think we also saw his father shoot at the television screen when he sees Hal in his original costume fully done up in the past. I think we're going to get a lot more flashback and see a lot of like, early Hal and early John. So perhaps we do get some answer to, what crashed there. Why did Abin Sur have the Manhunter? Did Sinestro have the Manhunter? All these type of things. We're definitely going to see some more of that conversation, or at least the aftermath of the conversation with Sinestro. So we'll definitely get more of that information as well. So
yeah, BJ, for sure. What do you guys want to see or think we're going to see?
I don't know. I mean, I'm excited. I'm intrigued by Ben's theory that John Sr., perhaps was passed up for the role of Lantern, and then Hal got it. So that's why he's so invested in, like what's going on, and like when my son has a chance, he's going to be ready. Like I love that as an idea. But I also, just to your point about just Lanterns really having a chance to expand the universe. I think it was really smart to make this a TV series, because all the criticism of the DCU is like, why are we looking so hard at Superman and like, why would we lead with Superman then Supergirl? But like in the comics, the Manhunter or the Guardians are like basically the architects of the DC universe. They're the oldest beings. And so much of what we know about DC spawns from all this deep lore that we're going to hopefully end up looking at through this Lantern show. So making this a TV series as opposed to a 2-hour movie, like chock full of space effects and stuff, like, is dope. I really want to get to what makes John tick emotionally, because like having willpower is cool, but it's, it's like courage isn't the absence of fear, but it's like, you move on despite it. So it's like, okay, what is it that really drives John emotionally, as opposed to like just following orders or just being stoic? Like what makes him really worthy? I'm excited to dig into that.
On that note, I do think that like it's interesting that the one thing that he tells Hal that isn't specifically something that we heard. I don't remember hearing Anon or his group mentioning this to him, that it's like actually kind of exceptional that he's able to have that construct without the ring.
Without the ring, yeah.
And the fact that like Hal's just kind of like, yeah, I mean, sure, whatever. I think that the preview showing like Jasmine Cephas Jones as like the young version of his mom makes me interested in seeing like what, because I think again the order of it all with the writing, we see this bird represented in this episode and a preview of seeing his young mother in the next episode, and I feel like we're going to see some of those parallels and what that means. We also get a glimpse of his mother seeing him with the apple on his head and his father pointing a gun, like she's witnessing that. So I'm it's interesting because I think Ben has mentioned like, oh, like is it his mom who's the betrayer or the one who's deceived him or whatever in his past or whatever? And I'm like, is it not his parents? Is it not like it could like and it could be so many people.
Why not
Sometimes,
both?
Like it could be so many people who deceived him in the past. So as like BJ's talking about like what makes him tick, there's just so many layers in that. And I feel like next episode, it seems like we're probably going to get a pretty John-centric episode. And I hope we do, because I think before we can move on in the series, it would really help us to know like what are we working with here.
Mm-hmm. One last note I want to say is Aaron Pierre is doing a fantastic job on this show. Like, you know, Kyle, we all know is an established talent. I know Aaron, I saw him in that, what's that, Ruby Ridge? Was that the name of that joint?
Rebel Ridge, his first,
Rebel Ridge.
You know.
Yeah, I love that film, and he was great in it. But to capture the stoicness of John, you know, and then still be able to deliver emotion at the same time is really well done. So I really want to give him his props. Everyone on this show so far has been, you know, really great. But I really just want to take a second and give Aaron, you know, some shout outs right there. I think that's about it. Once again, BJ, thank you for joining us. Make sure everyone go follow him, subscribe to Comics Are Dope on YouTube, one of the dopest, illest platforms out there. You know, you got all of that. BJ, please let the people know where they can find you at.
Sure. First of all, thank you guys for having me. It's been way too long since I've been on For All Nerds. So
Word up.
Appreciate the invite back. But yeah, you can follow the YouTube channel. It's at Comics Are Dope. And I am at BJ Kicks on all social platforms. So check me out there.
Mm-hmm. And we will be back next week with Lanterns for episode 3. Much more to come from For All Nerds. Make sure you are following us on all those platforms, but especially on YouTube. We are almost to 10K subscribers on there. Let's get there this week. We'll probably do a live, something to celebrate it. A lot more lives, etc., coming from us. Make sure you head over to ForAllNerds.com where you can get some of our fly merch. We got to send BJ a few of these shirts of ours. You know what I mean? Tatiana's rocking that Fletch Luthor. Portia got the For All Nerds logo. I have the You Can't Get This joint, so don't worry about it.
We tried, guys.
Legal issues, boys. Swag-a-lat-this.
Can they at least see it, Ben? I mean,
look at that. Yeah, Swag-a-lat-this.
You know who that's modeled after, so you're looking at the model yourself, right? Very good.
You know, they were hating on Swag-a-lat-this. So, but you know, we got some other fire designs on ForAllNerds.com. Much more to come over there as well. There's a lot of things coming from For All Nerds in the very near future. Yeah, we are cooking just like Lanterns, and we'll be back very soon. What's up, y'all? Thank you for watching that video that you just watched. Do one thing for me. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Do it because you love us. Do it for the cause. It's the For All Nerds Show. For All Nerds Show is a member of the Loudspeakers Network, where we always say rest in peace to our founder, Combat Jack.
For All Nerds Show is powered by our listeners. Everything we do, from our podcasts, live events, our website, are all independently funded. Please continue to support us through our Patreon page at patreon.com/forallnerds.
Available now at ForAllNerds.com. The Gucci Mandalorian, the Variants, the Duncan Egg, the Lion-O Richie. New designs coming soon.